Welcome everyone to another episode of Retro Wrestling Reviews. Fredo Esparza here, and this week we look back at Mid-South Wrestling's January 21st, 1982 episode. This episode was taped on January 20th, 1982 at the Irish McNeil Boys Club in Shreveport, Louisiana. Boyd Pierce and Cowboy Bill Watts are on commentary. The first match has Brian Blair beating Tom Renesto after catching Renesto with an abdominal stretch and then dropping down and turning that into a pinfall. Blair looked solid in the match. Match was kept very short, finished very quickly. That was then followed by Bill Watts giving his political views on Iran while talking about an angle involving the Iron Sheik. They follow that up recapping the Iron Sheik beating Carlos Zapata. General Skandar Akbar demands better competition for the Iron Sheik and wants the Junkyard Dog. Watts follows by mentioning that matchmaker Grizzly Smith was able to get JYD to wrestle the Iron Sheik, and they show highlights of the match. JYD goes for a near fall on the Iron Sheik and Akbar interferes. Junkyard Dog takes both out and gets the win over the Iron Sheik. General Skandar Akbar follows that up, mentioning that he received a telegram stating that the Iron Sheik had been called back to Iran by the Ayatollah, which is Mid-South's way of covering Iron Sheik leaving the territory. After that, we get a match with the Wild Samoans managed by the Big Cat, Ernie Ladd, as they beat Jesse Barr and Tommy Wright after a big Samoan drop on Tommy Wright that got the Samoans the win. Other than some brief offense by Barr, this was pretty much the Samoans dominating the match. Another short match. At this point in time, the show was going very quickly and matches were very short. And it continued on with the next match that was also very short as Mike George beat Carlos Zapata after a leg sweep. Short match with most of the focus being Bill Watts on commentary mentioning Zapata was related to some Welcher who was a friend of Jack Curtis and a former friend of his. That was really the highlight. Bill Watts on commentary talking about, for whatever reason, mentioned Carlos Zapata was related to some Welcher and he didn't like who he was, and that was the whole that was really what the match was all about. It kind of seemed like it was just Watts talking about that stuff. After that, we finally get a good match as Mr. Olympia beat Bob Orton Jr. with a sleeper hold to win the Mississippi heavyweight title. This was a fun, somewhat short match and what I felt was a surprise win. Orton Jr. went for the pile driver, but Mr. Olympia reversed it and then caught Orton Jr. with a sleeper hold for the win. Like I said, this was a short match, but really a well-worked match. These two guys are outstanding workers, and Mr. Olympia was really good winning this. It looked really good in this match. After that title match, we get Dick Murdoch and Ted DiBiase beating Bob Roop and Paul Orndorf after Bob Orton Jr. interfered and got caught in a brainbuster by Murdoch, and he pinned Orton. The referee counted that pin for whatever reason. A somewhat weird yet amusing finish to a good tag match. Watts reminded everyone how Murdoch took DiBiase under his wing as a rookie. Fun match with back and forth action between the two teams. Bob Orton Jr. ran in late and caught Ted DiBiase with a pile driver. Paul Orndorf then followed and called for a spiked pile driver on DiBiase, so Orton Jr. climbed up to the top rope. Murdoch is able to make the save, and he and Ted make the big comeback against their opponents. Murdoch knocks Roop out of the ring. DiBiase then took out Paul Orndorf. Murdoch then grabbed Orton Jr. with a brainbuster and got the win. Referee decided to count the pin. Like I said, very strange finish. Heels then complained about the loss, and the referee just ignored them and walked out of the ring. After that, because that was like the big main event, they give you Mid-South usually gave TV matches that were available just to fill TV time. And the first match they had was Ed Wiskowski beating Terry Daniels after a backbreaker. This was a squash match, the first of two matches that were like that. And it was kept very short, and Wiskowski just pretty much like I said, it was a squash. That was then followed by the match that closed out the show, which was Bill Ash versus Frank Monte. And that ended in a TV time limit draw. Again, another short match with each getting some offense, but due to TV time, it ended in a draw. But like I said, it was actually a pretty entertaining match to close out the show. They did get some offense. Thought this was a good show, especially the title match and the tag match. Matches were pretty short, so show kind of loses a bit after the tag match as they're just filling the remaining TV time. Those two matches that I thought were good showed you the level of top talent Mid-South had at the time, with everyone involved working hard and looking great in the ring, no matter what the result would be. Watch those two matches. The rest of the show was really not as strong. Really, 30 minutes of the show were solid, so you might find that enjoyable, but the last two matches are pretty skippable. So really, it's a 45 minute long show. You could probably go with watching about 30 minutes worth of the show and you'd be okay with that. So that's about it for this, covering this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the Retro Wrestling YouTube channel, where we'll have more wrestling show reviews as well as the Lucha World podcast and other content available. Also, be sure to visit the website retrowrestling.com for classic wrestling reviews. And for Lucha, visit my website luchaworld.com. For added content, you could check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/luchaworld. We have tiers at $1, $3, and $5. A lot of interesting rewards available. Again, thanks again, everyone, and hope to talk to everyone soon again.